I've done things like, like I said, 2 years ago we had so many lemon cukes, and I was like, I'm going to sell these things. And we lowered the price to like $1.10 a pound, and suddenly Whole Foods Sebastopol, who would buy maybe 7 cases, 140 pounds a week, suddenly they bought like, 18 cases in a week. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then you get all these other Whole Foods to do that, and then you get your distributors, okay, they'll pay $1, $1.10, and then I call Oliver's, who I've always had trouble, they're good about buying local for processed, shelf projects. They're not good about buying, produce that's not, and we've dealt with them a lot, and they always just sort of, put on a happy face, buy a bunch, and then they just fade out, it's like a song that just fades out. And our stuff's always good. We've always sent them good stuff. Well, I got this guy, one guy, at Oliver's, at the Montecito store, he's like, okay, if you bring it down to $1 a pound or $1.05, we'll do it conventional. We'll buy them through the conventional, and we can put them on ad, which is this thing they do every Wednesday. And then suddenly, I got them, buying like 600 pounds in a week, and it was like, wow, I got Oliver's to buy 600 pounds of lemon cukes. Go figure, So you got to think like that. It's what's your bottom line? If you don't have time. If you don't have time to do so much, and you don't have the workers, you might have to keep your price high. You might have to throw a few things out to keep your price high. But if you have the stuff, and you want to sell it, and you do the numbers, and you see that's going to be a better deal for me to bring the price down 60% and sell 250% more. Those are the important things you got to do. And a lot of times making those decisions when you have a lot of other work to do. It's the height of the season. You're exhausted. You're going crazy already. But if you put those kinds of decisions off, you will bury your future. And that's the thing. Is what I find, I'll leave this parting thought, is that people get really excited to farm because of the farming, not because of the business, because it's amazing to like plant stuff and grow, and there's the feel good part. People give you all this good feedback, and this is great. The first few years, you're like, this is great. You don't even care about the money as much. But you got to make it work for you. And you got to make money. And what I find is that almost anyone can learn to grow well. Everyone says, oh, I don't have the green thumb. Well, everyone, if they're dedicated and persistent, can learn to grow well. But you got to have your business at least equal your capacity as a farmer. So if you put all your energy into growing, and I've seen a lot of farmers do this, and I feel bad. A lot of young farmers say, look at all this stuff, it's beautiful. And then they, well, where are you selling it? Oh, I'm working on that. And they throw out hundreds of pounds, and they give it away to the kitchen, or they sell it for nothing. And that's sad. And I've seen a lot of these people go away. You have to be as much of a business person as you are a farmer. And you have to enjoy that part, or at least be willing to do it. And you have to be willing to do it when it really matters, which is when you have the product. Because if you're like, I'll figure this stuff out and I'll get it right next year, that's not going to work for you. You can maybe get away with that for a year or two, but if you want to be there, 8, 10 years later, then you got to like really put your business systems in place and make them match your growing capacity. And there's so much more I could tell you, but I want to hear from you.
Paul Kaiser, Singing Frogs Farm. We're in Sebastopol, and it's our 5th growing season. We jumped right in with CSA first and foremost. We've got about 100 families we're supplying weekly, and including Aaron Travis over here. And then we also do a couple farmers markets on top of that. As we grew in our CSA, we realized that you cannot any longer plan for exactly 20 cabbage and exactly 20 heads of broccoli and exactly what you need. You begin to have to grow excess just to make gophers, bad weather, etc. Speaking of the cold and crappy valley bottom, we had our first frost that killed our winter squash and the other crops on September 9th this year. Fairbanks, Alaska had their first frost on September 18th. So we beat Fairbanks, Alaska. Yeah, I know. So who manages the finances of the business? It's a joint effort between my wife and I, Elizabeth, and part of the reason I'm late is because this week has been crazy. She's in Minnesota caring for her mother, who is going through surgery for cancer. And I got 2 little kids at home as well. So she and I manage the business part together. She's definitely the one who does all the outreach with our CSM members, but I'm the one who does a lot of the business planning part and financial management part and cost evaluations and all that, and the record keeping on that part, which means I'm not in the field as much as I want to be. But as you grow and as you actually become profitable, that's potentially a good thing, is you need to become more in the management position and less out there 60 hours a week with your hands in the dirt. And I miss it, but it's better on my back, better on my family life, etc., that I have some time in an office chair as well, and then doing stuff like this, getting out and doing education work. Some of the money mistakes, I walked in when you were talking about buying the right implement and spending the money for it, as opposed to getting the cheap, cruddy one, I think is what I heard. And I have learned, I mean, we all learn more from mistakes than we learn from doing it right the first time, because do it right the first time, well, you may not have known how it was right and how it could have been even better, because you did it pretty well. So yeah, we always try, but brand new farmer, you go there to the fencing section of Freedman's Hardware and you want to buy the cheapest fencing that's going to be good enough to work, and you buy it, and 2 years later you're replacing it. And you realize, God, I should have just gone hog wire panels the first time around. So making those mistakes, building the first hoop house and having Mother Nature take it down about 6 weeks later from a windstorm, okay, now I know why it failed and I'll do it right the next time. So money mistakes have been, we want to invest in the right thing the first time when it's equipment, for sure, but in terms of all the other small infrastructure things like hoop houses, learning is amazing. You can really figure out, you know, it takes a while, it takes a few years. In our 5th year now, we've got a really good system down for a lot of our irrigation systems to do it really cheaply and really efficiently so that it functions well without any maintenance at all. And these are permanent year-round systems, and also with the hoop houses and fencing, stuff like that. So we're vegetables. We also do some chickens, eggs, and then we have sheep and goats and llama, very diversified, and fruits, berries, herbs, flowers. And best practices around managing the money, and then do you have a bookkeeper, a CPA? We've got our tax preparer, absolutely necessary if you run a farm. There's just so many ins and outs. He says it's awfully similar. I say, oh my God, farming is so crazy, the forms you fill out and how many different ways. I mean, our tax preparer knows it back and forth. He's not a farmer, he never has been a farmer. He's only got one other person who does farming back in another state, but he fills out their federal forms for them. And he knows how to help us make our money last year to year, over 10 years, in 20 years, with all the equipment that we're buying, the barn that we invest in, the hoop houses, the greenhouse. It's been really nice to have a tax preparer. And then we also have a payroll person, of course, because who wants to deal with all that?
Yeah, we do have payroll.
So the payroll person has been fantastic, and you've got to have people on payroll. Don't try to go the route of paying under the table or doing volunteering, because if you start to make money and you start to be known, which is a good thing, then you will be known, and they'll come knocking and say, are you above the boards and on the tables and everything by the books. Let's see. Oh, there's a few more things later in these questions I wanted to get to. So pricing, you got there. And seasonality. So we're at that low valley bottom. We've already had our first frost. We've actually had 3 frosts at this point. We do farm year-round. We're not tractor-based, we're not even rototiller-based. We're entirely hand labor, so we are able to farm year-round. Our bottom third of our property goes underwater about waist deep a few times each winter, so we can't farm that one year-round. It's great for fava bean cover crop. They're good wet foot cover crop. But we definitely farm year-round, and we really appreciate being able to do that because it does allow us to keep our really good full-time people year-round. I have a lot of part-timers as well, and things slack off in the winter and get busy in the summer for them, and they understand that, and that's part of the seasonality of farming, and they're flexible for that. And we're very thankful to have flexible people. But our 2 full-timers, John and Marty, who are there right now harvesting away for the markets, they're great, and I do want to always make sure I have jobs for them. There's the issue of, are you just paying them to spin wheels and do some peripheral things that aren't very useful or not? Well, we're still in the very early stages of investing. We've got a lot of things that we're working on, so it hasn't been peripheral yet. They have been willing to take vacations, like, well, hey, if you don't need me to work 5 days next week, sure, I'll take a couple days off. And that's been wonderful of them to be flexible. It's just been a great relationship, finding the right people that they can put in a 50-hour week if need be, and they can do a 20 or 30-hour week if need be. But overall, they are invested in the farm and its success. And that's been really important, finding those right people.